This is a skid steer. It is a John Deere 325G, and it's got a bucket on it, and we're using it to remove the topsoil before leveling a pad for a gravel foundation. I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead. I'm going to talk about this particular piece of equipment, what it is used for, and then some of the ideas and concepts that you need to be aware of when operating this particular piece of equipment. First off, we are putting in a gravel pad for a pole barn. It's going to have two containers on the gravel pad, and then eventually the pole barn will go up around the two containers. And so this gravel pad will be 6 to 8 inches deep. It'll have a channel around the outer edge. It'll have number 357 2-inch stone at the base, which will get compacted in, and then finally a number 57 stone on top of that that'll compact into that first base. So this bulldozer can remove the topsoil. This is not really a bulldozer, it's a skid steer. So a bulldozer would be a larger piece of equipment. It may be the preferred piece of equipment for here, but this is what we got. So this particular piece of equipment can push off this topsoil and all of this brush here. And what it's going to do is it's going to get it down in one of these corners. Okay? And it's just going to get it up out of the way, because we want to get down to the subsoil and the clay before we can do a level pad. Now this machine will push that and it'll lift it up, but it will not push a stump out of the ground easily. What we need for that is going to be the bucket on the excavator, and what he's doing right now is he's grubbing out stumps as he's moving up the hill to start getting that level place. Once he has some loose soil, then this will push that loose soil no problem. And so we can push off all of our topsoil. We can get in with the excavator, which is the excavator with the bucket over there, and then start digging out our structural areas and start compacting that clay. And then this can come along and start moving loose soil again and help with compaction. Now what we can do with this bucket is you can lift up soil, lay it out, drag it. That means you're going to use the bucket on it and just back over it, kind of just drag it across the ground, kind of spread it out across the ground, and help with the compaction as well. But ultimately this is going to be lifting materials, this is going to be scooping loose materials, and then it's going to be shaving stuff off of a hardened surface. So it can be also used to spread materials about. Now it is not super heavy, so our compaction rate is not going to be, it's not going to be hard as a rock. It's you know, the clay compaction is going to be a moderate compaction. So what we'll end up doing is spreading that clay out, excavating that clay, spreading it out in thin layers, and then just keep running over it to thin it and track it and track it, keep building it up that way. What will happen is the excavator with the bucket, which is over there, will likely lead, and then this will follow. Now if we had a bulldozer, we could scrape the topsoil off 100%. It would have the power to get these stumps out of the ground. I don't really have a stump to show you, and then ultimately would slow things down. So we want appropriate, it would not be slowed down by stumps, so we want appropriate equipment. This particular machine is also the same machine that had the diamond head shredder on it. So we're using the machine we've got with the equipment we have, and then we're just making adjustments by knowing when to use the excavator and when to use the skid steer. Now again, I can barely operate this equipment. I'm more on the project management side. I'm more on making sure the tools are in the right place at the right time. I'm more on the side of the logistics. But when you're operating this piece of equipment, you can only get in and out of it when the bucket is all the way up or all the way down, and you only get out of it when the bucket's all the way down. When you're moving this piece of equipment, it only has so much weight. So if it gets stuck up on something, the tires are going to spin, which gives you a risk of knocking a tread off. So you got to be mindful of this. So again, you got to have loose soil, spread and carry. Now we've got rock up front. This is going to be great for scooping that rock up, putting it in a dump truck, bringing it back here and dumping it off. And then later, like let's say you're doing a driveway, you could actually use this bucket to spread rock on the driveway if the operator of the dump truck didn't want to just drive down the driveway and drop and spread on the driveway. So there's a couple options in place. When you're working with a piece of equipment like this, there's a lot of safety factors to consider. There's a lot of maintenance factors to consider. So it's always best to get a professional operator, somebody who's experienced with that particular piece of equipment. And then also we want to have clear ideas of where the equipment can go and where it cannot go. So here we have a good, nice level area to go. But if there's holes, there's ditches, if there's old big giant stumps, then this particular skid steer has very limited ground clearance. And if it ends up on a bump, then the wheels are just going to spin. It's going to be a little bit of trouble. But again, I want to give you an intro going over some of the equipment we use. When the excavator stopped and the bucket's down, I'll do a walkthrough on that piece of equipment as well. You might be saying, well, this particular piece of equipment is underpowered for this job site. And maybe yes, maybe no. But again, that's not the only consideration you have when you're putting together something. You want to, what is the equipment availability? What can you get on lease? What can you get somebody that has it already? And then, of course, how you're going to conduct the job. And then once you're on site, you're going to make some adjustments. Like, for example, this was scraping and cleaning up, but there are still a couple piles of rocks and other things that are more suited for the excavator. And then there's time considerations. You can do things with a small piece of equipment. There are skid steers smaller than this, and the skid steer that's smaller than this might be able to do some of the job, but very often, one of the reasons I want to do this video is because very often you're going to see people come out on the job to do something for you, and they're going to be way underpowered because they're using the landscaping bulldozer to do, an earth moving job. This job is like right below earth moving. It would be kind of overkill to get a big bulldozer in here unless we're taking out the whole site. And so this one's working. It's kind of like a sweet spot for what we're doing here. But the person who operates this, he uses this on fence lines. He uses it around a farm. So if it was too much bigger, then it wouldn't be suitable for the other needs. If you've got specific questions about what kind of equipment you should get on your site, I don't sell equipment, but I do work with project management. I do work with the procurement side and the staging of big land projects. And so if you want to ask specific questions, I can either relay your question to somebody who knows it better than me, or I can answer that question as far as some of the sizing for homestead and land management projects. You don't need to own this equipment to benefit from it, but depending on your project, it may be too small, it may be too big. We want to make sure that you're just right, because it costs money to operate these things. So I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead. You can ask your questions at www.prosperitymehomestead.org. And this is part of our land management series. When you click the link below, you can opt into an email newsletter, but it has information about managing your land projects, because I want to see you on the land with your project done. Not a dream, not a hope, not a wish. I want to see your projects complete. I want to see you get results with your permaculture, with your homesteading, with your small farm, because now more than ever, with the inflation the way it is, society needs more farmers. Society needs more people working the land and getting projects done, and then doing it in an environmentally friendly way. If we got an overkill mower here, if we got a big earth mover here and just push this stuff all off into a pile, we wouldn't have saved all the topsoil. We would try to save the topsoil, but we would not have done as eloquent of a job as we're doing here. Anyway, again, I'm Justin Hitt. Ask your questions at www.prosperitymehomestead.org. Ask them below in the comments. I'm looking forward to hearing from you, but more importantly, ask the questions you need to get the damn project done rather than watching another video. So this has been just a quick overview of a John Deere 325G used in this specific application and how we're using it.